Hi there, welcome to Terrorland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Gemini energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row can represent high vibe Gemini energy, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy. And we all have our dualistic nature of free will, which is Gemini energy kind of represents that. And some people could be struggling within themselves, kind of battling to make a decision in free will. You know, am I going to do this or am I going to do that? And there's things that have to be sacrificed to make one decision or the other. Can't walk left if we're going to walk right. Can't walk up if I'm going to walk down. And so some people could be battling within themselves, but other people already made their decision. You know, we're all different people on our different journeys in life. And some people work through something. The bottom row can kind of represent some things that manipulate us. Could represent our staying in our comfort zone. There could have been some things that we could have known were kind of causing some issues within us or in our life. And some people work through it and they move forward in high vibe, in truth and love, and loving and believing in themselves. And the bottom row can represent some of our fears and our insecurities. The bottom row for some people didn't move forward because the bottom row can kind of represent our comfort zone, and we're all on our own journey again to listen to our intuition. Some people, their intuition is telling them, nope, it's time for me to move forward and do my life a little differently. Was I happy living my life this way to a certain degree? Sure. And some other people still are, and they don't even feel the call or the pull to do life any differently. So they're going to keep doing their life differently. But on another level, in our Gemini nature of self, which can talk about what our truth is and what drives and motivates us. Some people in their Gemini nature of self and their free will, they are more about themselves or these things of the world or ego image or things that they like to indulge in. There can be a lot of other things that people make more important in their life than growing up and maturing themselves or love. Some people don't even want to do love because you get hurt doing love. And so some people decided, nope, I'm not going to do love. And that can just be, I'm going to operate from my more self-protective, defensive, egoic nature. Could they like to be in friendships and relationships or get married and have children? Yeah. They just don't really want to come out from behind their ego nature of their self-protective nature to let their more loving nature come out to play in the world. And other people, that's not their truth and their Gemini nature. They are motivated and inspired by love. You know, we live in a world of duality. And sometimes we get in more mismatched relationships. And it's like, oh, wow, I kind of thought everybody was motivated by this. And the other people are like, I thought everybody was motivated by this. And it can be difficult because we can have love for people. But yeah, you know, your truth and what you want to manifest is kind of different than my truth and what I want to manifest. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about. And it's just to listen to your intuition about where you are at, what your truth is. We all tap into Gemini energy. This could be more something that people that are Gemini sun, moon, or rising sign or got significant Gemini placements might deal with and struggle with, but we all deal with these things. And we're all kind of looking for people who are kind of on the same page as us in our Gemini energy. Which Gemini is air sign energy. It is about our truth and our free will and what we love. So let's go look at the bottom row. The reason for the bottom row's reading is the Four of Swords, which is Libra energy, which is represented by the scales of justice, and can talk about, you know, what we think is just and fair. And underneath that is the Queen of Pentacles. You know, there's all these different stages and phases of life that we've invested in. Because that was the age and stage and kind of emotional maturity level of where we were at, and we wouldn't have done it if we didn't think it was just and fair. And we can all live our life a certain way, just like we've been 15 and 18 and 21. It's just that the only card showing itself in the bottom row, this is more the reason for the reading for the bottom row, is the kind of the intuition card. And it can talk about watching and observing people, and the feminine figures can talk about how we think and feel, and the masculine cards can talk about how we're taking action in the world and how we're trying to present ourselves in the world. We can either listen to our intuition to heal and kind of grow and mature ourselves, or we can kind of use our intuition if we don't want things to change and we maybe don't want to step out of our comfort zone and we have a way of living life that we like living. We could listen to our intuition about trying to find other people who want to live their life like that. We can all know at whatever age and stage of life we've been that there can be other people in the world who are more maybe bold, brave, confident than we are, and that's not us, so we want to do life like this. And then we can get in a friendship group with people and we're kind of on the page of life that we're on, how we think, how we feel, things we like to indulge in, invest our time, energy, and effort into, and what we think is just and fair. And we didn't choose to get in friendship and relationship with some other people. But sometimes it is more mismatched where some people are like, yeah, I picked this versus this and this and this, all these other things I could have, in my free will, chosen of how to live my life. This kind of aligns maybe with my comfort zone. There can be things about it I like. It makes me feel maybe more, the Queen of Pentacles I view as Taurus, and then Libra, could make me feel more stable and grounded and balanced within myself than if I were to go do some other things. That could feel like way out of my comfort zone, could make me feel very unbalanced and unstable. So, probably at any given moment in our life as we're moving through our life, it's kind of like going from stepping stone to stepping stone or lily pad to lily pad. you know, we're trying to find people that we feel that we probably have enough in common that we would get along okay. The Queen of Pentacles and Taurus energy can talk about these philosophies of life that we have, how we view life, what we think is just and fair of how to conduct ourselves in the world, just and fair, or what we enjoy investing our time, energy, and effort into. So, there's always going to be people who are more immature than us. There's always going to be people who could be more bossy, controlling, immature, full of themselves, bold, brave, confident, creative, inspired. There's the whole spectrum. And we're kind of trying to find people who are, that we feel most comfortable with. And then, those people probably feel most comfortable kind of with people like us to a degree, right? And all of us can kind of be using our intuition in that regard. But any relationship we do get ourselves in, then there can be differences, because we're all these emotionally complex human beings and we all have these different ideas of, it's kind of like being within a spectrum of a range. We might know some wild and crazy people. We might know some bold and brave and confident people. And we're kind of looking for the right spectrum, kind of like within these kind of ranges, I'm comfortable with that. Other people would say, oh no, I'm comfortable with this. And other people would say, oh, I'm not comfortable with those. I'm comfortable with this. And it's all like trying to find this kind of spectrum of ways of looking at life and living life and, trying to find our niche. And we all listen to our intuition about the different type of people that we probably decide if we're going to invest in them, and they in turn, if they're going to invest in us. And again, part of it can be the bottom row can represent our comfort zone And we all kind of like to stay in our comfort zone. And we all might be looking for someone to, in our more worldly nature and being human beings, we like to be in friendship and relationship with other people. And that's what Taurus can represent, all these different institutions of the world and jobs and any type of social group, religious organizations, getting in groups kind of that we have similarities with because of habits or hobbies or religion or ethnicity, or I like this sport or I have a disability or whatever. We're going to kind of listen to our intuition about all these different aspects that kind of make us up about who we are. And we could have several different types of friendships, groups, and relationships. And each one is kind of a little different. Sometimes you're only in friendship with certain people because of a certain activity. And maybe you don't get in a more involved relationship with those people. We go to these events together and then we don't really have much else in common, or we just live in the same neighborhood. Taurus, again, all these different institutions of the world, I get along with them fine. But, every relationship is, am I going to invest more in it? Do they want to invest more in than me? Would that seem awkward, or does it seem like what we have seems good? you know but in any relationship we get in, some people could be more wanting to keep living life like that, maybe longer than we would like to live life like that. Again, it's kind of just like we go through these stages of life of being 15, being 18, being 21, being 25, for example. Did I like people that I hung out with in friendships and relationships? And some of those people I could still be moving forward with today. But do I want to keep living at my life at any of those stages and never step out of my comfort zone, not keep healing and growing and maturing myself? And some people, Taurus is fixed sign energy, and the High Priestess is Cancer and Pisces energy. So two emotional water sign energies, kind of about what our dreams are and what we love. Some people could dislike change more than other people, and it can be really more difficult for some people to transition out of one phase of life to go to another phase of life. It's just like when we were young and people were going to move out, either go to college or just get an apartment or go get their first job or their second job or their third job in their life. Some people were kind of chomping at the bit to go do some of those things, and other people are like, I need more time, and it can just take them more time to feel more comfortable with the idea of change. Well, what if we're in a more mismatched relationship and someone is kind of more inspired to listen to their intuition, and when they feel the call to kind of move forward in life differently, they want to kind of go on that adventure. And they could be people who, some people could be a little bit more manipulated by the world, their fear or their ego or other people in their life, more so than other people. And so the other people could kind of look to other people in their life with these two cards anyway, emotionally, looking at the past, like their friend group, their original family, someone where, they could have a harder time, high vibe energies, being more independent. And some people, and that's the reading, for the reason for the top rose reading, the appreciation card, I view as the Nine of Pentacles. Some people already are more independent within themselves, and other people could be living on their own, could be, not a child, not a young adult. Some people can be like 60 years old and they're still quite codependent on other people in their life. So some people are kind of ready, and also The Queen of Pentacles, the King and Queen of Pentacles, and the Knight. Well, Virgo energy of the Nine of Pentacles is also represented by the Knight of Pentacles, and the Knight of Pentacles wants to become the King of Pentacles. So people who might be a little more independent, maybe in the Ten of Cups. The Happy Family reminds me of the Ten of Cups. And the Tens can talk about closing out a cycle. And if we were to close out a cycle in the Sword suit, the Rest and Rejuvenation card is like the Four of Swords. We would have to work through the 6 swords. 4 plus 6 equals 10. And we would close out a cycle of the difference. The 6 of Swords is Aquarius energy, that we kind of had this dream. And Pisces energy here in both these cards can talk about our dreams also that we had for our life, and kind of how we viewed life and how we imagine moving forward in our life is kind of the Aquarius energy. And again, some people could be more fixed, where it's like, well, this is the way I always kind of imagine my life, and this is how I thought it was going to play out, and this is kind of what drives and motivates me. And then, we do come in contact with all these different people in the world to maybe help us. High Vibe Pisces could be about expanding our perception of ourself and how we view ourselves and view the world and what we believe is possible, and maybe make us, maybe in a more high vibe Aquarius energy, look at life from a higher perspective, and maybe put some things in perspective, and maybe not live so much up in our mind and get up in our head, because Gemini is represented by the 8 and the 9 and the 10 of Swords, which can talk about being up in your head. And Aquarius can kind of talk about being up in your head. And some people could have much more concern about becoming more independent of an old way of living life or viewing life, which is the way they always thought they were going to live their life. And then when they come in contact with other people, and those people could be like, oh, we should go do this. And, it is offering in high vibe truth and love and encouragement. At the first chakra, people want people to be, the first chakra can kind of talk about at a core foundational level, that we want those people in our life, whether they're our adult child, our brother, sister, mom, dad, a romantic interest, a long-term friend. In the Journey card, we thought we were all going to move forward together. And we thought in the World card could talk about learning lessons. I thought we were all kind of motivated to be loving and encouraging and supportive of each other. In the bottom row, it can work through our fears and our insecurities and our more codependent nature, and have a little more hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in our dreams to be more independent in the world. And the Journey card reminds me of kind of the 8 of Wands, and which is Sagittarius, and the Fool card, which is Aries, to go on this adventure, to go, live our own dream. Some people really thought, well, I was going to do it like that, or like my friends, or like my family. And some people aren't that inspired within themselves, to go be more independent and kind of go invest in your truth. Some people could be really get up in their head about, well, what if I go try something kind of new or different and listen to my intuition and believe in myself or believe in my dreams. And the World card can talk about, a cycle ends and it didn't work out the way I thought. Well, then they could get back up in their head and just decide the Rest of Rejuvenation, kind of like, I'm just going to keep sitting here and maybe thinking about it. It's kind of thinking of all the negative things that could happen than all the positive things that could happen. And, we all should listen to our intuition. And if we don't think that that is where we're at right now, then we should stay here and heal. And, the Queens, again, can talk about how we think and feel. And the Queen of Pentacles can talk about and kind of Cancer and Pisces can talk about offering love and encouragement to ourselves. And we might need to stay in an environment where we feel like people are being more loving and encouraging and supportive of us before we're kind of ready to kind of go off on our own, kind of like taking that deep breath, which maybe some people felt like when they first moved out of home, or when they went to college for the first time, or they went to go get their first job or leave that first job to go get another job. A lot of us can. I usually bring up these things about when we were young because I think I know I went through some feelings like that. And, if we remember it, we could know that we had some feelings like that. And some people also have had less experience than some people. You could meet someone and they've always lived in the same neighborhood, maybe been at the same job for like 10 years to 50 years or something, been in a relationship of some sort for a really long time, and to kind of be more independent of that would be more scary for them, and it's kind of like having more practice in our life. When you say have applied for different jobs throughout your life, you don't have the fear about applying for new jobs like people who have only had one, two, or three jobs in their life, and especially depending on how long those jobs have lasted, they would have a lot more fear than people who maybe for different circumstances in their life, you know, worked at five or six significant jobs in their life. Um, it's like muscle memory, and like when you learned how to ride a bike. Some people rode a bike, they fell over, got hurt, and then they decided, I don't want to go ride a bike anymore. And some people kind of do that with love. I went and tried to ride a bike, it didn't work out. I'm not going to go ride a bike anymore. Some people, though, shadowy energy can be where people create an illusion. They could get in relationships with people who are more motivated and inspired and independent by love, and who maybe aren't more in their high vibe Gemini energy. They're not as caught up in the world. They close out a cycle with their more worldly nature and living more from their mind than their heart. They worked through this to come out on the other side more balanced within themselves, more offered love and all that stuff to their own fears and insecurities, to kind of love themselves and align with their more loving, hopeful, believing nature, so they don't and aren't more inspired by their more worldly egoic nature. They still have, like every human being, can have their fears and their insecurities and some things they need to improve on, but they're definitely just more motivated by love at a core foundational level than making their life and decisions in their life more for these reasons of the world. And I think sometimes some shadowy people, everybody can want to be in relationships with people. It's like, so you're more tempered in your ego? You're less immature? You're not more immature? You're not more bossy and controlling? You're kind of more like loving and giving, and that's kind of naturally who you are, and you've kind of learned all those lessons in life, and that's kind of your truth? Yeah, I want to be your friend. Yeah, I want to work with you. And if I could date you or marry you, I maybe would. You know? Um, well, other people who could be more about the world and more about themselves and a little bit, have some other shadowy traits and characteristics, some of those people are kind of more worried in a more shadowy energy, wanting to look like they have what other people have in the world. Of course, the people who are in high vibe relationships, and there are both those kind of people. And they could have very inspiring, loving, and encouraging and stable relationships and lives. And some of the shadowy people in the world, they want that too. So, shadowy energy can be, I have an idea. That's like shadowy air sign energy that anyone can harness. Instead of my actually working through my own fears, insecurities, my bossy nature, controlling nature, prideful nature, materialistic nature, more about myself nature, defensive to love nature. I have an idea. Instead of really emotionally growing up and maturing myself, male or female, some people just decided I'm going to create the illusion that I have. And that I'm more just and fair and balanced and emotionally mature and motivated and inspired by love, and that I've learned these lessons in life just like other people. And then they try to move forward with people in a relationship, creating an illusion that they harness their Gemini energy the same way they do, but it's a lie. You know, and to think that they'll be happy. They've got some lessons to learn. If you're going to move forward in a more creative and inspired relationship, and you're really not a more creative, inspired person, that's going to be a problem. If you're kind of really actually tipped out of balance and you are kind of more about yourself and these things of the world that drive and motivate you, but you're going to be in a relationship with someone who's more balanced and, you know, doesn't make those things that important in their life, and if you were to do things that kind of imply that you really are kind of more consumed with those things, the other people would be like, what is that? What makes you happy? I didn't think you were more consumed with those things, which again can be themselves being more self-focused, ego, image, money, materialism, self-indulgence, pride, ego, or just being kind of shadowy and immature. And the other people would be like, so it's always kind of having to sacrifice their truth of how they'd really kind of like to live their life to try to move forward with people. It's just like probably it could be kind of maybe hard to understand, but say you like to smoke cigarettes, however many that could be, but you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't like that. So then you try to present yourself as someone who doesn't want to smoke a cigarette here and there. That could be a problem. Um, what if you like to, and it's all on the scale and differences. Some people might not mind some smoking, and some people, if they really smoke a lot, and their truth would be if they could really live their authentic life, they maybe smoke 10 to 20 a day or more. And other people would be like, oh my gosh, like I smoke 1 to 5 a day. And same way with drinking alcohol, it's when we go out to eat or when we're out with friends and someone else really could want to have a drink while they barbecue. And some other people kind of have a problem with that because we're not out socializing and we shouldn't do it at home. And everybody could have their own reasons of issues that they've grown up with and why they feel that way. And other people they've known in their life. Those are all kind of things we have to navigate, but it's kind of more noticeably extreme if someone really isn't motivated and inspired by love, and they kind of maybe like to want to be in the relationship, but it can kind of seem like they're indulging themselves in it, and the other people don't really feel like it's motivated and inspired by love. It's kind of like having sex with people. And then they could kind of, over time, realize that they think those people are more about the ego and the image and the status and the money of it, instead of really being more motivated and inspired by love to be in the relationship. Could it have those things about it and aspects about it? Yeah. And we can all appreciate those things and put work and effort into having those things. But the primary factor for the people who are motivated by love is that we get in the jobs and we get in the friendships and get in the relationships and do all these things more because that is the truth of who we are and what we enjoy. And it makes us happy and we love it versus being in certain job, friendships, and careers more for the status or the ego or the image and how people will view us and our status and our image. And that's where the difference can be. Sometimes some people can get in a relationship with people who are really kind of doing all these things in the world to have a certain status or image, they get in a relationship with someone who seems to be someone who would be a good, maybe a marriage partner. Maybe did marry him, who knows? And they move forward in a relationship, and that person kind of gets into those things too, but more authentically. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I enjoy this. The other person could just be doing it more for how it makes them look. Um, Libra energy, kind of in shadow, can be more of this that anyone can harness, this more public politician persona. And so they could invest in all these certain activities and friendship groups and organizations or whatever, more so people view them a certain way. There's always this ulterior motive behind it, because that's the thing about some shadowy people. They don't live their authentic truth. It's to do all these things, living more from your mind than your heart, that seems logical and practical, so you have a certain status and image in the world, so people will invest in you and view you a certain way, and you'll have a certain image and status in the world. Where the other people that could belong to some of those activities and hang out and do some of those things, it's because they really want to do it and be there and like those people or whatever, or the subject matter or whatever. Well, shadowy energy, kind of at the big picture represented by the devil, can be people's kind of more prideful, and that can be a little more shadowy Taurus philosophy. I do these things and I act that way, and this is the way you should do it. And they could think they're a very just and fair and upstanding person. Well, what if someone comes along that they get in a relationship with that really likes to do those things, and they know that's the truth of why they do it? They're not putting on a show. Well, then it can kind of, high vibe energy, kind of represented by God at the big picture, can kind of illuminate shadow. And then it can get people kind of in their ego or their competitive nature. And it could kind of illuminate that some of these people kind of aren't who they present themselves as being, are more, maybe a little more superficial and shallow, and doing a lot of these things for these ulterior purposes than because they really want to do it. And then they cannot like that because they don't want to see the truth about themselves. And of course, if they're a more prideful, competitive energy, well, I don't want to be in a friendship or relationship with someone who kind of might seem to be more balanced, more authentic, more just, fair, balanced, emotionally mature, authentic. But they, instead of dealing with the truth of even maybe seeing the truth, because shadowy energy can be, and in a, well, not in a typical Four of Swords, but Libra energy can be where, again, anybody in their Libra energy could be where they don't want to see the truth, want to stay in denial of the truth. But they could turn their back on some high vibe people in their life because they don't like to hang out with people who, high vibe Taurus is walk the talk, who really are who they say they are. And high vibe Virgo, who've done this inner work to be more independent, are more inspired to just be more independent. And shadowy energy can be where people are making their life more about conforming to the world. But the truth is, everybody has the free will to hang out with whoever they want. And some of those people didn't want to keep moving forward with some people that were more independent, maybe were more bold, brave, and confident, maybe weren't about more conforming themselves to the world. And they could just have more things that you could say manipulates them than manipulate some other people in the world. And if there are people that are very worried about their image or whatever, where the other people just go live their authentic life. How about I go out in the world and I treat people the way I like to be treated? and I, treat them with love and encouragement and respect. And I see who else wants to interact with me that way. Is be like, well, who are you going to talk to? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to hang out? Well, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't talk to those people. No, you should talk to these people. Well, why not those people? Well, that doesn't look good, or they're kind of in a different group or whatever, you know? And the high vibe people are like, I'm just looking for people who want to get along, that are just and fair and authentic, and I can be loving and encouraging with them, and they can be loving and encouraging to me. I think some people in my life we could know, and some people could even look at it and think, huh, that kind of seems a little bit, you know, a mismatch. But isn't that kind of like the world we want to live in? Where so this person looks like this person dresses like that, this person seems of that more socioeconomic status, this person seems like that, these people seem to be interested in this, those people are interested in that. I guess I'm from a very small town. So, we've all grown up with each other and we all know each other. And, we're just human beings trying to get by. And, all, if you were going to hang out in a crowd of more like yourself, you might not even find anybody, you know? It kind of opens up your willingness to, I mean, probably at a bigger town where you don't know everybody, might need to be a little more careful and get to know them. But we're just human beings. Why can't we be friendly and kind and considerate to each other? you know but some people would be like, oh no, we'd only go do that if those people were there. Why do those people get to be the first ones to go there? And if they're there, then we can go there. Oh, well, because they have a certain status and they can do those things. But I can't do those things. I can't be the first one there. And then if other people wanted to stop in, oh, well, no, you don't. So it can be all this hierarchical bullshit. It's like, you know what? I don't really care. I just want to go live my life. And the world, that's kind of becoming independent of the world. It's so caught up in our head about what other people would think and how other people would view us. And that can be caught up in the illusion of the world, which is Pisces energy in shadow. The world is going to judge you, all the different people in the world, based on the type of person they are. If they're more, oh my gosh, did you see this person was there? It's like, well, didn't I see your friend or your family member, whatever, getting a burger and a beer at the local bar last week? Well, that's different. you know, who gives a damn what the fuck they think, right? Um, but some people get very caught up in that, you know, until something or someone in their life or their life changes, and then they're doing it, and then it's all of a sudden it's all okay. But if other people do it when they have not decided that that's okay or appropriate, then they look down on it. It's like, you know what? You can look down on whoever, and that's just the type of person you are. Other people who uh, have lived more life and are less judgmental, and maybe don't try to build their image and their status off of how what they didn't do in comparison to other people. Just live their life and know other people are living their life, and assume people not a big deal. Did they kill somebody? Did they rob somebody? Did they do this? Did they do that? No, they were just out. Okay. Wow, exciting. And other people, it's just some people almost looking for anything on anyone to try to make themselves feel better than. And some people could have been brought up in families that are very much like that. And so then they have a very hard time, because this philosophy of life that we have could have been instilled in us from all these different influences in our life, our original family, experiences in our life, friends, family, the city, town, state, and country that we grew up in, right? And some people didn't have some of those same type of influences or whatever, but they could have some things in common. So, in some ways, we can still get along with people. We can be loving and encouraging and supportive to people. Now, there are some people right now that are in that kind of relationship, and If it's a more mismatched relationships, they both might want to get married, but they want to get married for different reasons. The high vibe people want to go have more hope, faith, and belief in love. And the other people that are more shadowy are trying to figure out if they are that type of person. If they are that type of person, they're going to let them go because that's not the kind of life they want to live. It's kind of like to create the illusion we'll go create our own independent life. Oh, but by the way, all these things manipulate me or my friends or my family, or I'm very kind of, I want to do it this way. So, they could even move forward in a relationship or a marriage, and then later the people find out that they're like, well, I know we got married and we created this illusion that we were going to go on our own adventure and kind of do our own new thing, but sorry, I want to do this. I think that's just unfair. And I don't want to do that. You know? And then they could even, trying to figure out, can I do that with this person? Can I kind of switch and bait? Are they more independent? Do they love and believe in themselves enough? If I try to do a bait and switch with them and later they find out that in this person, the shadowy person, is trying to present themselves more high vibe, and they create the illusion, look, yep, we're going on this adventure, yep, let's go, let's put an end to being single, maybe let's get married, and then they move forward in the world like that, and as the other one is continuing to try to move it forward, they're like going back and doing this. It's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And they're like, what? Well, that's like fraud. Shadowy energy tries to cheat the justice system by not being just, not being fair, not being truthful, not being authentic, not treating other people the way they want to be treated. And if it's in a romantic relationship, it really wasn't because of love, because they maybe don't do love. And hoping because other people want friendship or relationship or to be in a job, just like an employer can do that, and a friend can do that, and a romantic interest can do that. Hoping that the other people will be more manipulated by these things of the world that they want to, just to be in friendship, relationship, stay in the marriage, especially if they created a family. You know, some people might have to wait longer and longer before they can think they can try to pull the bait and switch. Because if they try it too early, the other people might leave. So it might be, do I think I've got enough things built up, enough things that have accumulated somehow in the relationship, the friendships, the connections, the money, the status, the image, their emotional investment in me. That's then sometimes when they decide, yep, now I'm going to make a decision to maybe repeat some old patterns. And that's when some people realize in high vibe, those people did not learn some lessons they were meant to learn. And yes, when people are in those situations, it is, Pisces can be where it's confusing. What? I viewed this person as a more just, fair, stable, grounded person. And then it's kind of seeing through the illusion that that's not who they are. And, people can stay in situations like that for a really long time, working through it because they don't really want to leave, and we all kind of had this dream that we were trying to bring into reality, and we might see some things that we think manipulate those people. We could try to be loving and encouraging to them. I think loving people can be very patient with people. I was going to say, I don't know if the better thing is to just boom, what the hell is going on? And you better shape up or ship out, like right now, no bullshit. But we are these emotionally complex human beings, male or female. And it's one thing to distance ourselves from someone and not hang around that person anymore, or move away from that person, or get out of a job, a friendship, or a relationship with some of those people. But then emotionally, it kind of takes this time to heal emotionally. And some people, have already done this with some different people in their life, and maybe significant people in their life. Um, some people could view someone as someone they want to be married to, but maybe because of different stages of life that they're at, this journey of learning lessons so that you do feel more stable and grounded within yourself, and other people have went through that journey when they were maybe younger. I need to focus on investing in myself and my own independence, and maybe my own career, and building up my stability or getting my education, and then I would be more ready to get in a more involved relationship. And some people could be at that stage, maybe regardless of what age you're at. And then hoping that, some of the people that they would, that some of those people will keep maybe moving forward with them in a relationship. And maybe some people want to get to know people more. Um, and then they would consider moving it into a more formal commitment. But there's always going to be those people in the world, and that's where we need to listen to our intuition about people. Are people, do we feel they more like to be indulged in a relationship? That they maybe are more codependent, more self indulgent? You know, if people love someone and they want to be in a relationship with someone, if other people in their life, um, they're kind of, some people could be really afraid that they would lose their independence, and like, well, then I'd have somebody, some people could feel like getting married is like someone who kind of comes into your life, male or female, who kind of wants to be like your parent. And it's like, I'm not looking for someone to parent me, and I don't want to be your parent. We are our own individuals with some of our own dreams and aspirations and things that we like to invest our time, energy, and effort into. And could I want to love you and be in a relationship with you? Yes. Some people just have to work through their fear of being married, and I guess spell it out. If it gets to be where, it's one thing to know, oh, hopefully people would communicate, and hopefully, sometimes, uh, why can't the other person go with? you know? Um, and sometimes the people don't want to go with. You're going to go where? Yeah, you want to go with? No. As long as people, again, in high vibe energy, are being authentic, being truthful, kind of like at a core foundational level, I'm not trying to hide anything, you know? High vibe Virgo, I'm being truthful and authentic. Um, I'm being just and fair. You know, other people could maybe, if they ever kind of get up in their head a little bit, they listen to their intuition. Wait a minute, what about this person I'm in a relationship with? And the whole thing is, some people get so caught up in it, and that's maybe more of an ego thing. You know, um, all I can do is listen to my intuition. All I can do is act in a just and fair way with character and integrity, love and believe in myself, trust and have hope and faith and belief in how they seem to be showing me. And if they seem to be more authentic and just and fair and loving, then I'm not going to get all up in my head about this stuff. And I definitely know some people who get all up in their head about everything. And it's like, oh my gosh, do you have any reason to think? No. Why are you torturing yourself like this? Do you want to leave the relationship? No. Okay. How about you enjoy today? How about you have a little more hope and faith? And that could be, kind of the Aquarius energy of putting things in perspective, getting out of your head, having a little more hope and faith and belief in yourself and others and in love. But some people really have a hard time with that. And shadowy energy can just be people that I think the people, well, some people could have gone through some life experiences, so they're more worried about it. But if you're already in the relationship and really there's nothing indicating something shadowy going on, what is really the difference if you find out today or, a month, I guess, or a year? Do you enjoy it and want to be in it? Well, then just listen to your intuition. It's kind of believing that, you know, maintain balance, be truthful, be authentic, enjoy your days so long as you're enjoying your day and, it seems to be going okay, then you're enjoying your day. I mean, you get all up in your head and all stressed out, and tomorrow a person could slip and fall and, or who knows what's going to happen. High vibe energy is a little bit more of going with the flow, you know, and becoming more independent of our more fearful nature or that shadowy people. It can be wanting to control people to feel more safe and secure and stable and balanced. If I know where you are at all times, then I feel more safe and secure. Well, there's going to be other people who are not going to be able to stay in a friendship or relationship with someone who's like that. But, there's other people who are, and, we all are at where we're at, but, and, to kind of find people who are kind of maybe on the same page or offset that and like that kind of relationship dynamic. But some people might want to get married, some other people might not. Um, some people might become independent of someone, you know. Is this leading to marriage or is it not? Or like a person at a job? Am I, I kind of had the impression I was going to work my way up, make more money, take on more responsibility. Is that going to happen or not? And some people in their own King of Swords within themselves, I view Libra as King of Swords, are going to speak their truth. And if the people they think they are in relationships with are the people who are more, and some of those people are like just and fair and nurturing and loving and encouraging people, but it's just not the right mix, It's like being in a relationship or having a friend, but it's not quite a best friend, but the other person um kind of wants to try to force it to be more like a best friend thing, and it's like maybe it will in time, but right now, you're kind of a friend. It's kind of like knowing someone, an acquaintance, and maybe doing some things with them, like dating them. It's that magical spark, that we can't understand. Why with some people do we feel more of that drawn attention to some people than others? Um, and if people think, no, I am in a relationship with the right people, we can always have other people that we could have viewed as just and fair. And maybe some people at one time in our life we had wanted to marry or did marry for some. Um, but if that didn't work and that cycle closed and they move forward with new people, if those people are more on the same page as them, they're going to move forward with them. For other people, one cycle closed, but as I go on this journey of meeting other people, I'm not just going to get in a relationship or stay in a relationship or marry someone just because a different one didn't work out. That would be more shadowy. I want to be in a relationship to be in a relationship for all the different reasons I want to be in a relationship, but it's not really love. Well, some shadowy people are even getting in relationships in order to try to manipulate other people to come get back in a relationship with them. Well, to be in a relationship and thinking someone else is going to kind of keep pursuing you and you're creating an illusion that you're in this happy relationship, why would they do that? that some people have a screwy way of looking at life. Um, and high vibe people don't want to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship. It's not acting with character and integrity within them. It's kind of using other people just to feel better. That's what some people could do. Maybe, some people can look to being in a relationship with someone, just like people can look to drugs or alcohol to make them feel better. People look to get in a relationship to feel better, or it's good for their ego or their image, they think. Other people are like, I'm not getting in a relationship with someone unless they're the right person for me to be in a relationship. And then people in the world can see different people living their life. And other people listen to their intuition. Who are the people who get in a relationship for all these other reasons other than love? Who are the people who are more independent, who know their worth and value? Who, if they wanted to be in a relationship, could probably be in a relationship. Somebody would be willing to be in a relationship with them. But they don't want to be in a relationship with the wrong person. They've already had enough experience with that. Or people who created an illusion, or people who needed to heal but decided to invest in other things to be the answer to make them feel more balanced. So some of those people are going on an adventure and they don't want to repeat some of these old patterns. So the world card can be, I want to learn the lesson, and that's high vibe Virgo. I want to learn the lesson that I've learned from all these different experiences, from all the different people I've known, the different people I've met. What traits and characteristics do I like and admire? Which ones do I want to invest more within myself that are maybe lacking? Where do I need to heal and grow and mature myself and know my worth and value? Why did I get in those? Why did I stay in them for as long as I did? I don't want to do that again. And a big thing was that in the past, we could have gotten in some situations, and our high vibe, intuitive nature, emotionally mature nature, and our just and fair nature was definitely trying to tell us, don't do that. But, we have these lessons to learn, and we have all these things we want to go indulge in and invest in that we're sure will make us happy. And partly it can be because it keeps us in our comfort zone. And a card not showing in the bottom row is the yin yang card, which is kind of like a balance card, but it can be kind of that we're looking for other people to kind of offset some ways of being within ourselves. Like if you are maybe more some way, you might look for someone who's kind of the opposite of that, and then together you kind of balance these things out in each other or provide for each other what the other person didn't provide for themselves. And that can be where people get more mismatched relationships, where someone else could be more abundant in the Nine of Pentacles in being loving and creative and inspired. Maybe they weren't that caught up in their ego and their image, and maybe didn't put as much work and effort to have a certain status or image, or even in their career. They could get in a relationship with someone who did put more work and effort into those things, but they lacked some more being creative, inspired, and loving. And you could both be used to kind of working with people like that, even though that's not the type of person you are. So it's kind of your comfort zone, and you kind of, you kind of bring to the table what you bring to the table, they bring to the table what they bring to the table. And that can work for a long time. And we have people, long-term friendships, and we have people in the happy family in our family. I mean, I think it's really amazing how sometimes in our family, everybody can be so different, but I think it's this own little cosmo of the world. So that then when we do go out in the world, hopefully makes us more compassionate to other people in the world, because we had our own uniqueness and differences and situations in our own family that then, but we love those people. So then when we go out in the world, we kind of meet some people who kind of seem more, you know, different than us. uh, we can kind of appreciate it though, because we appreciate kind of the uniqueness or the difference of some of the people in our life, even though, But if eventually, instead of being a more offset kind of relationship, some people could, Sagittarius can be about higher learning and education, that some people, as time goes by and we just grow and mature ourselves, we end up just feeling more balanced within ourselves, and we could all, the people who maybe weren't more connected in with their emotional nature, some of the loving and encouraging people in their life, help them get more, kind of more balanced and more connected in with their emotions. For the people who maybe were more invested in the emotional nature stuff and not so much in maybe investing in other things and their stability and security, or their just other things in the world, and maybe even investing in more things of the world. They could have just made loving relationships a primary focus in their life. And, then they kind of get more balance within themselves. Well, then we could go on this journey, and, probably we wouldn't stay in some friendships or relationships if there wasn't ways that, we felt like, in a way, it was a mutually beneficial relationship. But then what if at the end of kind of helping each other maybe get more balanced, one person is kind of ready to kind of take the relationship to the next stage of some sort, move forward a little differently, and the other person was like, well, no, I do like this and I want to keep doing that. And it's like, or the other person, both people could kind of feel like they want to become independent of it. And certainly not all relationships, but more of the relationships that we did, that we kind of stayed in these friendships and relationships, it probably kind of was mutually beneficial to both of us in some ways, even if it was just to help us heal from past pain and heartbreak because of some other situation in our life that we had to become independent from. If that's, we had both moved away from home, when we were young, or maybe somebody had someone pass away, or their family moved, or their friend moved, we could have all helped each other through a stage of life. And some of the people in our life are going to keep moving forward with us, but there can be some people in our life who, they could have had a harder time maybe working through these energies, or they do harness them in a more worldly, shadowy way and we didn't know it. The all tied up, which is kind of like Gemini energy of the Eight of Swords, and the door to spirit. Again, some people look more to the world and maybe even other people in their life to kind of guide and direct them. What way should I go? Should I go this way? Should I go that way? And they're always kind of deferring to other people, or just looking to the world. Well, what's the world doing? Because shadowy energy could be more about conforming to the world. And they don't listen to their own intuition. And other people are more independent and they listen to their own intuition. And some people could be people that really kind of more follow the crowd. And some people could think, I don't think that's just and fair. Well, they're doing it, and so we should do that. It's like, I'm not doing that. High vibe energy would stand up for their truth and what they think is just and fair. And just because other people are acting certain ways or treating people certain ways or whatever, other people are like, well, we don't want to stand out, and so we should agree with them, and we don't want to cause problems, and we don't want to speak our truth, and maybe they'd be mad at us and we'd have to become independent of them, and I'm codependent on them, and it goes round and round. And some high vibe people are like, I'm not willing to compromise again in free will, something is let go of. And it can get to a point where what people have to let go of is either being able to be more authentically themselves, live their more authentic truth, which again isn't trying to hurt anyone and treating other people the way they like to be treated. And just doing that is not okay, according to some people in the world. And so, they either don't think it's just and fair, it's too restrictive, it's too confining, it's more about conforming, not allowed to be more independent, not able to shine your authentic light in the world, invest in your own unique talent, skills, and interests for some reason. Some people just want you to make it more about them and not be more independent, want you to be more codependent. And for all those reasons, some people, and again, if people are bossy or controlling and stubborn, is like, I'm leaving this job, friendship, or relationship. Someone else can take my place. And though they might do that, they still had to kind of wrap their brain around it, because some people in their life, could have been loving, nurturing people in their life at one time, but, people can change over time, and maybe that's not who they are anymore. Going down the road of life, you're either continuing to be motivated and inspired to be guided more by your high vibe nature to kind of keep you up on the road of life, and slowly but surely we can kind of periodically drive our life off into the ditch. And, we don't know for sure if those people will get out of the ditch again. And some of them want us to keep indulging them while they're in the ditch. It's like, that is not what I signed up for. And, some people you might wonder again, was that the way they always wanted to do it? I just didn't know it. And they were kind of putting on a show the rest of the time, but that really is their truth. And it's all to work through that, offering truth and love to all of it and yourself and the situation, so that you can let it go and deal with the truth. Some people were more just and fair and loving at one time, and then maybe they weren't. Maybe some people, you come to find out that they have a lot of fears or insecurities, don't feel very stable and grounded within themselves, much more codependent on other people or people they get in relationships with. Maybe are more immature. Sometimes we don't know kind of how bossy or controlling immature people are until they show us. And then it's like, oh. High vibe people are wishing people in their life peace and love. Would like some of those people to keep moving forward with them in their life, but if that's not their truth, we all will repeat certain patterns, and the truth sets us free. People can try to move forward, but it's not going to work out successfully if they haven't learned these lessons. And some people aren't ready to move forward differently. They gotta go learn some of these lessons that they haven't learned yet. So while they go off learning that lesson, you're going to move forward with the people in your life who are loving and encouraging in relationship with you. And what you don't see coming is the Six of Pentacles. Why? Because of the Ten of Pentacles. So in High Vibe Virgo, you wanted to get to the truth. And you did this inner work within yourself to get clear about your truth. And look at things from a just and fair way. Is this just and fair? Are people acting with character and integrity? Are people treating other people the way they like to be treated? Is this aligned with my truth? Again, some of them are lovely people. It's just not the right person. Other people were being shadowy. In all those different cases, we have to get out of our ego to accept the truth that everyone has their free will. And though you could have been a loving and encouraging person in their life, God and their own high vibe nature within themselves and all the other loving people they've had in their life. With some people, they've had a lot of loving people in their life. It doesn't matter. If you're not willing to temper your ego, grow up, see the truth, get more balance within yourself, emotionally grow up, quit indulging yourself in your more immature ways of being, they're going to keep doing it. And for some people, they're like, I can always find other people to indulge me. You can go. I don't really care. I don't want to change. I don't want to see the truth. I don't want to close out this cycle. And that's what we have to realize too. With some of the people who aren't investing in us, putting in work and effort to do equal give and take in a relationship with us, it's because that's not their truth. Not if they would have to do it in a more mature, insightful, self-aware, acting with character and integrity, and doing equal give and take in high vibe Virgo and Taurus philosophy of life. That is not their truth, and that's why they don't do it. They're more invested in thinking it's just and fair, probably to use their intuition in a more shadowy way, and maybe use their emotions and their words and their assets or their looks or their resources or their sexuality or whatever they got going on to try to get someone else to get in a relationship with and move forward with them. They don't want to maybe be more independent, want to be in more codependent relationships. They want to keep being manipulated by what manipulates them and hope the people they get in a relationship with will equally be manipulated by those things or let those things just manipulate them. You know, if they wanted to do things different, they would. And I think as you close out a cycle, again, in the Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles with some people in your life, and go on this journey, life's all about learning lessons. And sometimes people are willing to keep learning lessons. Sometimes people aren't. Some people don't want to see the truth of some of the lessons that they would benefit from learning. I'm not going to stay in my ego about it. I wish them peace and love. And I'm going to become independent of the more shadowy people in my life or where just their truth isn't my truth. And that opens me up to have the opportunity to go find different people in the world who are more on the same page as me. Because with some people in your life, you found out their truth was not your truth. And that's what, again, some of you already have the people in your life who are more on that same page as you, and you and them will move forward in this new cycle, this new phase of life. Well, you and some of the people in your life kind of detach from certain habits, vices, people, ways of viewing life, whatever it is that you work through, and you move forward. And yeah, as you move forward, you're going to meet other people in the world who have kind of moved forward. And other people are going to keep repeating an old pattern because they're not willing. The Six of Pentacles can talk about willing to exchange this way of life for this new way of life. Whatever that is. I healed from past pain and heartbreak. I saw the truth. I get to quit being in this energy, and now I get to move to that energy because I became independent of that old energy. It's freeing yourself and seeing the truth of something, whatever it could be. And other people either feel no need, some of them are happy living their life, and you weren't happy living your life in that energy. What's coming up for the more shadowy people that they don't see coming up? The Five of Pentacles. Why? Because of the Ace of Swords. The Five of Pentacles can talk about detaching from the Four of Pentacles, which is Taurus energy. So on the other side of healing is Taurus energy. Over here is a more maybe worldly, shadowy Capricorn energy, which Capricorn, all the earth signs can talk about the world and kind of being caught up in the world and Capricorn can be about what we view as victorious and successful and wanting to hold on to something or a way of living life or viewing life and people and not wanting to let it go. But when we're willing to see the truth, we add that truth to the Four of Pentacles and it becomes the Five of Pentacles because we saw the truth. We were willing to self-reflect on the situation and we wanted to invest in the truth and justice and fairness. And then when we move forward more out of Capricorn energy can be something we invested in or started at one time. And the Five of Pentacles can be willing to see it's time to kind of move on from that. And then Virgo helps us transition out of it and become independent of it. And some worldly, shadowy people could always be surprised when other people do that. Why are they leaving this? Why aren't they more invested in living maybe more from their mind than their heart and making their life more about me or more about these things of the world or these things I indulge in? I think it's just and fair. I think that makes sense. That's the way you should be in the world. They could even think that the loving people who don't make their life about those things, that those people are going to be left out in the cold because they're not making their life more about these things that they think are important, making their life more about these things that are more important. And also just feeling like people will reject them because if you're just more independent, not conforming to the world and kind of kissing people's ass or something and playing the game. It's like, maybe I don't want to be in friendship with those people if they play those games. If they have these unwritten rules about, well, I have more status or image or blah, blah, blah than you, you should like kiss my butt. And it's like, I just wanted to come out and get along with people, but we have to do the social kind of strata and you somewhere in your brain come up with where I'm at. Okay. No. I'm not going to play the game. You know, if treating you the way I like to be treated isn't enough, and you want to turn your back to me and make me feel left out in the cold, then thank you for showing me the truth of who you are. And I accept the truth. And then sometimes those people don't like it when, well, you weren't supposed to see me as being bitchy or rude or snubby or whatever. I was like, but that's how you acted. That was how you chose to act. Yeah, but that's like part of the game and that's how you get along and you're supposed to abide. It's like kind of being in a mean girl, mean boy club. It's like, I just want to go live my life. Who wants to go live life? And, kind of more just treat each other the way you like to be treated. And again, who are the people who don't want to quit making their life more about conforming to the world or their power, their status, or their image because it benefits them more, they think. Some people are going to have more high vibe people leave their life, and the people who they're defending are other people who could harness a more shadowy Taurus energy, which is not. High vibe Taurus is like being a spiritual leader in the world, walking the talk, being who you say you are. Moving forward with other people who create the illusion they're a pillar of society, but more codependent on the world and immature. But they think the other people are going to be left out in the cold. But the other people are aligning with truth and stability and maturity, high vibe energy of justice and fairness. They're going to work with the divine. I'll let the world work with the other people of the world. And, if any of you have read the Bible or studied the Bible, there's a phrase where Jesus tells his disciples somebody wanted to go back and bury a family member. And, sometimes Jesus said some harsh things. And it's like, oh my goodness, what does that mean? But let the dead bury their own dead. And that's what Some of these people, their truth that they defend is the 5 can mean their more worldly philosophy of life. They're not willing to do more equal give and take. They have their worldly nature. They also have their more creative, inspired, intuitive, loving nature, but they think that could just lead to trouble or them getting hurt or something, so they don't invest in it. The other people acknowledge they have a worldly nature and a shadowy nature. They offer it truth and love and encouragement to grow it and mature it and not indulge it and say, yeah. And our shadowy nature's like, I want to go do this and I want to go do that. And it's like having a little child inside of you. And you're like, we are going to go do some of those things. We're just going to go about it in a way, in truth and love and justice and fairness. And those people end up getting in very stable and balanced and abundant relationships and friendships. And the other people probably are going to be in relationships with people who are more about hiding, that they're more about the ego and the image and the status. And they might end up having a lot of these things of the world. It's just not, it's really kind of just more about themselves and how it benefits them. And some of the people that'll be in a relationship with them, it'll just be more for how it benefits them, or because they all are very immature and codependent and don't want to grow up and be more independent in the world. So there you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.